Shana Tova, good morning. I am Rabbi Jenny Greenspan here at Congregation Beth-El in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am joined on the bima by Cantor Melissa Cohen and our organist Charles Manning, and in the sanctuary by a few members of our dedicated board of directors. And we are pleased that we are able to be gathered in quite different ways from previous years on Rosh Hashanah, but to still be able to celebrate together. If you have a copy of your machzor, of the Lev Shalem machzor at home, which was lent to you, we will begin our service with the Birkot HaShachar, the blessings upon arising, on page 37.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasakavina levchina ben yom uben layla.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani betzalmo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bat chorim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvura.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael betifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, anoten laya'if korah.
Amen. We continue with Baruch She'amar on page 47.
Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch hu, Baruch hu severeshit, Baruch hu nerve yoseh, Baruch hu zerum kayim, Baruch merachim al haaretz, Baruch merachim al habriyot, Baruch meshalim sachar tov lireyav, Baruch alad v'kayam lanetzach, Baruch podehu matzil, Baruch shemo, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Yachid chei haolamim, melech meshubach mafa'ar, ade ad shemo hagadol, Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch hu Baruch
Melech
Shemo.
mehulal, batishbacho.
Amen. Continue with the responsive chanting of Ashrei, page 60 to 61.
Ashrei yoshvei v'taka, od yahalelu chasela.
Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am sh'Adonai Elohav.
Tehila leDavid, aramimcha Elohai hamelech, v'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed.
B'chol yom avarchecha, ve'ala shimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai umolad me'od, v'li gdolato en cheker.
Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, ukvarotecha yagidu.
Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei nifleotecha hasicha.
Ve'ezuz nerotecha yomeru, ugdolatcha asaprana.
זכר רב טובך יביעו וצדקתך ירננו.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדל חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל ורחמיו על כל מעשיו.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו וגבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד הדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
עיני כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו.
פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל הרצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קורב, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל שיים ישמיד.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah.
We continue on page 67 with Nishmat, our transition from our opening blessings into our morning service.
נשמת כל חי תברך את שמך, אדוני אלוהינו. ברוח הבשר תפארת ממסכנו למקום תמיד, מן העולם ועד העולם עד
In the words of King David, Barchi nafshi et Adonai v'chol korvai et shem kodsho. Let my soul bless Adonai, and every fiber of my being praise God's holy name. Continue with Ha'el on page 69.
האל בית העצומות ושכר הגדול בכבוד שמך, הגיבור לנצח והנורא בנורותיך.
We begin our official shacharit, our official morning service, with the word Hamelech. The king is sitting. We today imagine God on throne, hearing us and our deeds, ready to move forward into a new year. We begin with Hamelech on page 69.
יושב על כיסא רם ונישא, שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו, וכתוב לנו צדיקים באדוני, לישרים נאווה תהילה. בפי ישרים תתהלל, ודברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם. ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ובקרב קדושים תתהלל. ולמקלות רבבות הנחלות ישראל, ובאדוני יתברך. ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול בר תשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבחר בשירי זמרה, מלך העולמים.
We rise as we turn to page 71 for the Baruch Hu, the formal call to prayer. I invite you, if you are joining us from home on the live stream, to rise in your places as well. Page 71, Baruch Hu.
Et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך עושה שלום ובורא את הכל עולם ויוצר חיים אורות מאופל אמר
You may be seated. We continue on page 76. You may join me in the English, the first paragraph, and we'll conclude in the Hebrew. You have loved us deeply, Adonai, our God, and shown us boundless compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, for the sake of our ancestors who trusted in you and to whom you have taught the laws of life, so may you be gracious to us as well and instruct us. Compassionate Creator, care for us. Allow our hearts to understand and discern, to hear, study, and teach, to observe, fulfill, and perform with love all the teachings of your Torah. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah. Attach our hearts to your mitzvot. Unify our hearts to love and revere your name, so that we may never lose hope. As we trust in your great, holy, awe-inspiring name, we will delight and rejoice in your deliverance. We conclude in the Hebrew.
וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול הסלע באמת להודות לך ולך יחדך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה
Amen. Please turn to page 77 and rise as we declare the oneness of God and the oneness of our people with Shema, page 77.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך והיה שמעת שכוני מצוותיו
Then you will remember and fulfill all of my mitzvot and be holy before your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, am your God, truly.
Adonai Elohei
You may be seated briefly. So we turn to page 80. We'll do Micha Mocha, the song of celebration and freedom as the Israelites went forth from Egypt, just mentioned at the end of the Shema. It is a reminder that even in our tightest spaces, we can always seek freedom and go forward in our prayer. Please join in Micha Mocha on page 80.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נהרת תהילות עושה פלא, שירה חדשה, שבחור גאולים לשמך, לשפת הים, יחד כולם, הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדיחנו ממך, יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו.
גאל ישראל.
Amen. We turn to page 81 and rise once again. We will begin our Amidah together on pages 81 and 82, and then give space for some silent prayer and rejoin on page 91. For now, we will start with the Avot blessing, the blessing marking our ancestry, leading us to today on page 81.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Eloi avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ולאה, האל הגדול הגרמור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר, חסדי אבות ואימות, ומביא גואל לבניהם, למען שמו, באהבה. מסוד חכמים ונבונים ומלמד דעת מבינים הבטחה פי בתפילה ובתחנונים לחלות ולחנן פני מלך מלכי המלכים ואדוני האדונים.
Remember us for life, sovereign who delights in life, and inscribe us in the book of life, for your sake, God of life.
זוכרנו לחיים, נלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו,
מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה.
Amen. I invite you to continue silently using either the words of the page or the words in your heart. We will rejoin together on page 91. Our God and God of our ancestors, bless us with the threefold blessing of the Torah. On page 91, we offer the priestly benediction to the community, and I invite you to join me in the refrain of Ken Yehi Ratzon in response to each of the lines chanted by the cantor in the Hebrew.
Yavarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha
Ken Yehi Ratzon.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha yivikunecha
Ken Yehi Ratzon.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom
Ken Yehi Ratzon. May Adonai bless and protect you. May Adonai's countenance shine upon you and grant you kindness. May Adonai's countenance be lifted toward you and grant you peace.
Besefer Chaim beracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikativ lefanecha anachnu b'chol amcha beit Yisrael L'chaim tovim u'leshalom Baruch ata Adonai
Baruch Shemo
Oseh hashalom
Amen. We'll remain standing as we turn to page 92 for Avinu Malkeinu, a beloved prayer of this time of year, which we did not do yesterday. As Rabbi Dennis mentioned yesterday, being Shabbat, we don't include as many of the prayers of supplication, of seeking something from God. And so today we will include the beloved Avinu Malkeinu. We'll open the Ark and continue on page 92 and then silently through page 93.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha Avinu Malkeinu en lanu melech Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu kotavenu besefer chaim tovim
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us for good in the book of life.
Avinu Malkeinu kotavenu besefer geula lishua
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu kotavenu besefer panasa bechalkala
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of sustenance.
Avinu Malkeinu kotavenu besefer zechuyot
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of merit.
Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu kotavenu besefer salicha umechila
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of forgiveness. Page 93 will join together in the bold. Avinu Malkeinu, have mercy on us. Answer us, for our deeds are insufficient. Deal with us charitably and lovingly and redeem us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chaninu Vaninu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaninu Vaninu, Ki ein banu nasi. Asay manu, tzedaka v'chesed. Asay manu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'osheinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chaninu Vaninu, Ki ein banu nasi.
As the ark is closed, you may be seated. In a few moments, we will turn to our Torah service. As we had yesterday, we will be inviting members of our board of directors up to offer each of the aliyot. Today we'll be honoring those board members themselves rather than congregational aspects this year. We will return to that on Yom Kippur, so not to worry if you were excited to find your category to join with a board member again. But this morning we wanted to truly thank and honor our board members, both the ones present today and all of the ones who were here yesterday, who will join us on Yom Kippur and who serve us so much throughout the year. Our Torah reading, when we get to it in a few moments, will come from the next chapter from what we read yesterday, from Genesis chapter 22. It is often referred to as the Akedah, or the binding of Isaac, and in this Torah reading, God sets out to test Abraham and requests that Abraham sacrifice his son Isaac. Abraham sets out to do so, and then is stopped at the last moment by an angel of God. And in the end, he sacrifices a ram instead. This is why for many communities, the ram's horn is a common choice for a shofar on Rosh Hashanah. But as I mentioned, this entire episode was said to be a test for Abraham. But the Torah never actually circles back to that. It never tells us if Abraham passed the test. Was he supposed to be blindly faithful, as he seemed to be, and to go forward and do what God had asked? Or was he supposed to argue back against God? Did the angel come in to say, yes, you passed, or to say, no, and I can't let you go further? We don't really know what the God of Genesis would have considered a pass for Abraham. And so often it is for us. Throughout life, we are constantly tested, and we aren't always sure what the right path is, what would constitute a pass of the test. So in a few moments, when we pull out the Torah and listen to Cantor Melissa chant, I invite us to think, what ways have we been tested this year? What tests do we anticipate? Do we think we've passed? And if we don't, could we have found a way to do better? And if we think we have, what can we do to make those habits of passing hold on even stronger in the year to come? We will now turn to page 96 as we begin our Torah service. In a few moments, we will once again open the ark. When we open it, I will invite you to please rise. We will start with Ein Kamocha on page 96.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, v'ein kema'asecha, malachutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memashaltecha b'chol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai
God merciful and compassionate, patient, abounding in love and faithfulness, assuring love for thousands of generations, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, and granting pardon.
Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed l'alafim, Nosei avon v'fisha v'chata v'nakeh.
Open my heart to your Torah, and that you fulfill the desires of my heart and the hearts of all your people Israel, for goodness, for life, and for peace, as we now join in affirming the oneness of your name.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Avinu Shema. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Gadol Adonai iti, unerum ema shemo yachdav.
You may be seated. As I said, we will be inviting up our board members individually to take the aliyah from the front of the page, or the front of the table, front of the room. I've lost track of words. They're not in the book, I forgot them. We will invite board members up one at a time to take the aliyah from the front of the room. If you'd like to follow along with our Torah reading today, see if you can guess whether or not you think Abraham passed the test. Our Torah reading will be found in our Machzor on page 103 through page 105. And for our first aliyah, I invite board member Rob Kirsch forward.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ויהי אחר הדברים האלה והאלוהים נישא את אברהם ויאמר אליו אברהם ויאמר הנני ויאמר כך נא את בנך את יחידך אשר אהבת את יצחק ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה והעלהו שם לעולה על אחת ההרים אשר אומר אליך וישכם אברהם בבוקר ויחבוש את חמורו ויקח את שני נעריו איתו ואת יצחק בנו ויבקר עצי עולה ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayeh olam nata betochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amot sheni.
For our second Aliyah, I invite Cindy Harp forward.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ביום השלישי ויישא אברהם את עיניו וירא את המקום מרחוק ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו שבו לכם פה עם החמור ואני והנער נלכה עד כה ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה וישם על יצחק בנו ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת וילכו שניהם יחדיו ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו ויאמר אביו ויאמר הנני בני ויאמר הנה האיש והעצים ואיה הסה לעולה ויאמר אברהם אלוהים ויראה לו הסה לעולה בני וילכו שניהם יחדיו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Ya'amod shlishi.
For our third Aliyah, I invite forward Todd Katz.
Baruch Hu et Adonai and Barak.
Baruch Adonai Barak le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai and Barak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu michol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayavo el hamakom asher amar lo Elohim vayiven Sham Avraham et hamizbeach vayaroch et ha'etzim ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל לעצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם, ויאמר הנני, ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער, ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי עתה ידעתי כי ירא אלוהים אתה, ולא חסכת את מנחת יחידך ממני. וישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא והנה איל אחר נאחז בסבך בקרנה, וילך אברהם ויקח את האיל, ויעלהו לעולה תחת בנו. ויקרא אברהם שם המקום ההוא אדוני יראה, אשר יאמר היום קר אדוני יראה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam na'tib'tikenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amod Revi'i.
For our fourth Aliyah, we invite forward Lauren Hewitt. If you are following along in the book, the fourth Aliyah is the second paragraph on page 105.
Baruch et Adonai hambarach.
Baruch Adonai hambarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hambarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים, ויאמר בי נשבעתי נאום אדוני כי יען אשר עשית את הדבר הזה ולא חסכת את בנך את יחידך, כי ברך אברכך והרבה את זרעך ככוכבי השמיים וככל אשר על שפת הים, וירש זרעך את שער אויביו, והתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ עקב אשר שמעת בקולי. וישוב אברהם אל נעריו, ויקומו וילכו יחדיו אל באר שבע. וישב אברהם בבאר שבע.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amod chamishi.
For our fifth and final Aliyah of the morning, we call upon Todd Maurer.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamborach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar ba. Asher. Let's start that over. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Vayehi acharei hadvarim ha'ele v'yugad le'Avraham lemor hinei yalada milka gam hi banim lenachor achicha et utz bechoro ve'et buz achiv ve'et kemuel avi aram ואת כסד ואת חזו ואת פילדש ואת ידלה ואת בתואל ובתואל ילד את רבקה 8 אלה ילדה המלכה לנחור אחי אברהם ופילגשו ושמה ראומה ותלד גם היא את טבע ואת גחם ואת תחש ואת מאחה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata Beth-EL. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
We will now please rise as we invite Todd to the bima for the lifting of the Torah, and we invite also Cindy Harp to come join in the dressing of the Torah. We rise, we're Visot HaTorah.
Visot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael ani Adonai beyad Moshe.
You may be seated. Haftarah today is found on page 111.
I'm going to announce the Haftarah because our dear rabbi is going to be chanting this morning's selections on page 111 from Jeremiah, and these are selections promising God's love for us. And we are not going to be reciting the Maftir this morning. We recited it yesterday. It's the same one from Numbers, from the book of Numbers. But I will call her to the honor of reciting Haftarah this morning. Tahamod harav chava Rachel bat Yogev Sender veleka Miriam Maftira chazaka.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim beratzav v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher matorah uv'Moshe avdo ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת והצדק. כה אמר אדוני מצא חן במדבר עם סירי חרב הלוך להרגיעו ישראל מרחוק אדוני נראה לי אהבת עולם אהבתיך על כן משכתי חסד עוד אבנך ונבנית בתולת ישראל עוד תעדי טופייך ויצא במחול משככים תתאי חרמים בהרי שומרון נטעו נוטעים וחיללו כי יש יום קראו נוצרים בהר אפרים קומו נעלי ציון אל אדוני אלוהינו כי כה אמר אדוני רנו ליעקב שמחה וצהלו בראש הגויים השמיעו הללו ואמרו הושע אדוני את עמך את שריד ישראל ויש תקווה לאחריתך נאום אדוני ושבו בנים לגבולם ושמוע ושמתי אפרים מתנודד יסרטני ויבשר כי כעגל לא לומד השיבני ואשובה כי אתה אדוני אלוהי כי אחרי שובי ניחמתי ואחרי היוודעי ספקתי על ירך בושתי גם נכלמתי כי נשאתי חרפת נעורי הבן יכיר לי אפרים אם ילד שעשועים כי מדי דברי בו זכור אזכרנו עוד על כן המומי לו רחם אחר עמנו נאום אדוני ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל העולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ועושה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ונאמנים דבריך ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו על כיסו לא ישב זר ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום הזיכרון הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לכבוד ותפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ודברך אמת וקיים לעד ברוך אתה אדוני איי מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל ויום הזיכרון ברוכה תהי. So normally in this space of the service at this moment we would be blasting the shofar. As I'll explain in a few minutes, I'm going to refrain from doing it in the room today, though even on second day, since it is no longer Shabbat, today is the day to do it for Rosh Hashanah, because the aerosols from the shofar itself have been shown to be a way to spread this virus that keeps us so separated even more. And so as not to contribute to adding more time to this separation, I'll instead offer a few words of reflection about the shofar right now, and then in a little bit we'll explain where we have a video available for all of us to hear the shofar blasts, even if not right here during the service right now. And I'll start with one of my favorite Mishnayot, one of my favorite teachings of the first attempt of the early sages after the destruction of the temple to lay out what the rituals of Judaism should look like without a temple. It might surprise you that this is one of my favorites, but here it is. Shofar shenizdak v'divko pasul. Divek shivrei shofarot pasul. Nikav ustamo im me'akev et hatikia pasul v'im lav kasher. A shofar which has been split or cracked and then glued together is not valid for use. If one sticks the fragments of other shofars together to make one, it is not valid. If there is a hole in a shofar that he seals up, or that one seals up, if it interferes with the sound, it is not valid. But if it does not, it is valid. A few centuries later, the rabbis of the Talmud layer in, if anything is added onto the shofar, whether of the same substance, whether from another horn or of a foreign substance, that shofar is again not valid. If it was punctured but sealed with the same or foreign substances, many of the rabbis say it's still unfit, but Rabbi Natan says, if it was sealed with the same substance, it is fit. If it's sealed with a different substance, it's not. If a shofar is plated with gold on the inside, it is unfit. If it was plated on the outside, but the sound doesn't change from what it was before, it is fit. For several pages of the Talmud, the sages explore what makes a broken and repaired shofar fit to declare the opening of the new year. And though it could be mundane and boring, and I would respect you if you say I'm crazy for that being one of my favorite passages of Talmud and Mishnah, because we're just getting into the nitty-gritty here of the physical shofar, it became one of my favorite selections of Talmud, partially because it was one of the first I learned in rabbinical school, but partially because each time we reviewed it in class, it seemed to me not to be just about the shofar, because all of the rulings about what keeps that shofar fit seem to boil down to one thing, which is authenticity, that it is itself. And every time I found myself reviewing the section, I couldn't help but think of myself as that shofar. If a shofar is broken, you should repair it with like materials. So if it's a shofar made from a ram's horn, the patch needs to be from another ram's horn. If it's one from ibex, patch it with ibex. If it's from kudu, patch it with kudu. And so too, we are all different materials, and yet if we find ourselves cracked and broken, we have to patch with ourselves. And sometimes we've felt so broken that we've even felt as shattered as the 9 blast teruah. And it takes a lot of internal self-work and self-care to mend those cracks. And if the shofar is to be adorned, if you're going to put gold on the outside, it can only be done so in a way that leaves its sound, its voice, as it is. The adornments have to stay on the outside, and they cannot cover the mouthpiece. They can't get too close to where one would put their mouth to blast that shofar. The inside should not be plated with silver or with gold, because that would change the sound. It would change who that shofar is. And so too, we can and should adorn our bodies and not use those adornments to change who we are. They should express who we are, but not try to pass us off as someone else. More deeply, we can learn from others and take in their lessons, but we shouldn't treat their words as our own internal silver and gold. We can take inspiration from what we've learned from others and think about it and integrate it and act on it in our own ways and speak from our own hearts purely and with our own words. Because the word for the sound of the shofar in the Talmud passage is the same word that we use for a human voice, kol. And every shofar's kol in the Talmud is considered kosher, whether it's a high one or a low one or a raspy one or a clear one or a melodious one or one that mumbles a little bit, maybe it's a little off key. But every voice is kosher, and every crack that is repaired and every adornment that is added, the only thing that is not allowed to change is that shofar's kol, its voice. And so we too should be a shofar and fix our cracks and hold our own voices. Mending ourselves while staying true to ourselves is admittedly much easier said than done. And that's where I think the sounds of the shofar, and now I mean the physical shofar, can help us. They can help do it as those sounds reverberate inside of us. Rabbi Yosef Chaim, who was also called the Ben Ish Chai, wrote in Baghdad in the late 1800s, and he suggested that the different blasts were meant to guide us emotionally. Similarly, even Rabbi Dennis thought so too in our video. He says, the Ben Ish Chai says, the tikiyah, the long singular blast, is supposed to be a shout for joy. The shevarim, the 3 broken piece, and then that 9-piece shattered truah, both hint at pain and at suffering and weeping. And we end our blasts with a tikiyah gedolah. It's as though the Ben Ish Chai is acknowledging that life has its ups and downs, and those blasts can pierce us and break us, just as we sometimes feel pierced and broken. And then it ends with a tikiyah gedolah, a longer, drawn-out blast to remind us that we can find a way back to joy more fully. It's as though we go through the entire cycle. We go from whole to broken to shattered, and then we learn to rebuild ourselves to be whole and stronger than before. The blasts acknowledge that things may not always be good and joyful. There are more shevarims and truahs than there are tikiyahs. But they, and the very shofar itself, remind us that we can get back there after we go through that brokenness. It reminds us that we can also be doing the tshuva, the repair and repentance work with ourselves and to ourselves. So if we notice that final blast of the tikiyah gedolah, it is a long, lasting single blast that at minimum should cover the length of all 3 of the other blasts combined. And so the Ben Ish Chai is saying that the tikiyah is joy, then the tikiyah gedolah is the joy that can encompass all of the pain and all of the brokenness. We've had a broken year, and we are working on becoming repaired. We have laughed, we have cried, and the authenticity of the shofar itself and of its calls remind us that repair is possible, but we might have to put in the 3 times as long time of the tikiyah gedolah. So this year, as I said, it's not safe for this room to be filled and for all of this congregation to be together physically. We've been told that the aerosols of the shofar itself may risk an even greater spread of the virus that has kept us home. And so we don't want to lengthen that time more than we must. And so because of this, we won't be blowing the shofar during this service. Instead, earlier this week, we made a video with the full set of the shofar blasts. You can hear and feel all of them, which is available on the Beth-El Zedek YouTube page. We are very grateful to our ever-present Baal Tokea, our shofar blower, Fred Schwab, who helped us make this video earlier in the week. So I invite you and encourage you, after the live stream of this service ends, navigate over to YouTube, to Beth-El Zedek's YouTube channel, and watch that video and to listen. Listen to the sharp sounds, the sounds that can reverberate into our very souls. Let them pierce you, let them break you, possibly even bring you to tears, and then let them make you whole again and help you fix the cracks with your own soul. Put yourself back together with your truest pieces, whatever they might be, and remember that your joys and your pains of this year are part of you, and know that they can actually fix you into a stronger and truer, more authentic you, and you can be an even more authentic shofar for next year. So I wish us all a year of sweetness, of health, and of growth. And so in place of the sounding here, we will acknowledge the piece of the shofar service we would have done here with the singing of Min HaMetzar Karati Ya, Anani Bamerchav Ya. From the tight and narrow spaces of pain and struggle, I called out to God, and God answered me with expansive options. God answered with a Tekiah Gedolah. So may we all call out, cry out like the shofar, and hear our own expansive options from within. We will turn to page 119 for Min HaMetzar.
Min HaMetzar karati ya, anani b'merchav ya, koli shamata, al ta'alim osanecha, leravchati v'leshavati.
Ashrei ha'am yodei atikiyah, joyous are the people who experience the sounding of the shofar. Adonai, they walk by the light of your presence. They continuously rejoice in your name and are exalted through your righteousness. We turn to page 121. We will begin the service for returning the Sefer Torah to the Ark. I invite you to please rise as we open the Ark for Yahalelu and then Eitz Chaim Hi, returning the Torah to the Ark.
Chaim hi למחזיקים בה בתומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכינו בם בכל נתיבותיה Ashivenu Adonai Inecha Benashuva Hadish Yameinu Hadish Yameinu
You may be seated. And we turn to page 123 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה ביעלמה דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירם ויעלמה וימדו
For a moment before we move on into our Musaf service, I want to thank and acknowledge we've been getting messages from those of you at home worried about Rabbi Dennis, and I want to assure you he is in fact quite well and sitting here in the congregation. We decided to let him enjoy Rosh Hashanah from a pew. So he is quite well. He is here in the building with us, and he will be offering a closing benediction at the end of our service. But he sends his regards and appreciates your well wishes, and we assure you he is fine. And so we will continue with Unetane Tokef, the opening of the Musaf, on page 143, and we rise as the ark is opened once again. Let us speak of the sacred power of this day, profound and awe-inspiring. On it, your sovereignty is celebrated, and your throne, from which you rule in truth, is established with love. On Rosh Hashanah, it is written, and on the fast of Yom Kippur, it is sealed.
Rosh Hashanah
When we really begin a new year, it is decided, and when we actually repent, it is determined. Who shall be truly alive, and who shall merely exist? Who shall be happy, and who shall be miserable? Who shall attain fulfillment in their day, and who shall not attain fulfillment in their day? Who shall hunger for companionship, and who shall thirst for approval? Who shall be content, and who shall wander in search of satisfaction? Who shall be at ease, and who shall be afflicted with anxiety? Who shall be poor in their own eyes, and who shall be rich in tranquility? But repentance, prayer, and good deeds have the power to change the character of our lives. Let us resolve to repent, to pray, and to do good deeds so that we may begin a truly new year. Turn to page 154. So we now enter the three major themes of the Musaf service, Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot, which I saw brilliantly and very succinctly summed up as Malchuyot, meaning kingship, God rules, Zichronot, meaning memories, God remembers, and Shofarot, which we spoke about, God hears us. God rules, and then God remembers, and God hears us. We begin with the Malchuyot section with Aleinu Hagadol on page 154. Once again, Cantor Melissa will do the prostration at the ark herself, and the rest may do so in your places if you would like. Page 154. You may be seated. And continue on page 157 with our verses for Malchuyot.
Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu, kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha, v'ten chelkeinu b'toratecha, sameinu mituvecha, v'samechenu b'shuatecha, v'taher libinu le'ovtecha be'emet, ki ata Elohim be'emet, u'dvarecha emet, v'kayam lad. Baruch ata Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
ay melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Ay melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael, b'yom hazikaron.
Amen. Page 158. Page 158. May the words of our lips be pleasing to you, exalted God, who listens, discerns, considers, and attends to the sound of our shofar blast. Lovingly accept our prayerful offering that proclaimed your sovereignty.
Arishet Zefatenu Yerav Lefanecha Eram Avenisa Arishet Zefatenu Yerav Lefanecha Eram Avenisa Mivin umabit umakshiv lekol tekiya tenu utkabel berachamim berachamim uvratzon seder malchiyotenu.
Turn to page 161, the Zichronot section about memory. We say forgetfulness leads to exile, while remembrance is the secret of redemption. Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin said, "What is the worst thing the evil urge can achieve?" And he answered, "To make a person forget that one is the child of a king." Continue on page 161 et Ve'al Yedei.
ועל ידי עבדך הנביאים הכתוב לאמור הלוך וקראת באוזני ירושלים לאמור כה אמר אדוני זכרתי לך חסד נעורייך אהבת כלולותייך לכתך אחרי במדבר בארץ לא זרועה ונאמר וזכרתי אני את בריתי אותך בימי נעורייך והקימותי לך ברית עולם
May we never abandon our memories. May our memories inspire deeds which lead us to life and love, to blessings and peace.
כי זוכר כל הנשכחות אתה ומעולם ואין שכחה לפני כיסא כבודך ועקדת יצחק לזרוע היום לזרוע היום ברחמים תזכור ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
זוכר הברית
Amen. May the words of our lips be pleasing to you, exalted God, who listens, discerns, considers, and attends to the sound of our shofar blasts. Lovingly accept our offering of verses proclaiming your remembrance.
ארשת זפתנו ירב לפניך ארם ונישא ארשת זפתנו ירב לפניך ארם ונישא מבין ומביט ומקשיב לכל תקייתנו ותקבל ברחמים וברצון סדר זיכרונותינו.
To our final theme of shofarot, we ask God to listen to us. The blasts of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah revitalize the soul and mind of every Jew. Each one receives a new soul and a new level of understanding, all according to their own level. This new soul and vision are drawn from the inner countenance of God. Join in Psalm 150 on page 165.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, Beth-EL Shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Beth-EL Trua. Kol הנשמה תהלליה. Hallelujah, hallelujah, kol הנשמה תהלליה. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
For you hear the sound of the shofar and attend its splintered call. You are beyond compare. Baruch atah Adonai, who listens with compassion to the sound of the splintered call of your people Israel. Page 166.
כי אתה שומע קול שופר ומאזין תרועה ואין דומה לך. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Shemo.
שומע קול תרועת עמו ישראל ברחמים.
May the words of our lips be pleasing to you, exalted God, who listens, discerns, considers, and attends to the sound of our shofar blast. Lovingly accept our service of the shofar.
ארשת שפתנו ירוב לפניך אל רמה ונישא. ארשת שפתנו ירוב לפניך אל רמה ונישא. מבין ומביט ומקשיב לכל ותקבל ברחמים וברצון סדר שופרותינו.
Today the world stands at birth. Today all creation is called into judgment, whether as your children or as your servants. If as your children, please be compassionate with us as a parent is compassionate with children. If as your servants, we look to you expectantly, waiting for you to be gracious to us, and as a day emerges from night, bring forth a favorable judgment on our behalf, awe-inspiring and holy one. Concludes our Musaf themes, and we move toward the end of our service for Hayom Te'amsenu on page 170.
היום תאמסנו, היום תברכנו, היום תגדלנו, אמן. היום תדרשנו לטובה, אמן, אמן. היום תכתבנו לחיים, חיים טובים, אמן. היום תשמע שפתנו, אמן, אמן. היום תקבל ברחמים רצון את תפילתנו, אמן. היום תתמכנו בימין צדקך, אמן, 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 אמן.
Please rise as we turn to page 173 for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקינו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונה. ואנחנו גואלים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכים מלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שירת השמיים שיוסד על עצמו שווה כבוד השמיים. שכינת ישראל על כן אקבל לך אדוני אלוהינו לראות מהרה ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Grant that the memories of those who have gone before us be a source of strength for us and for everyone of the house of Israel. May the souls of our departed find peace in your sheltering care, and may we all be blessed with peace, tranquility, and the fullness of life. We invite all who are mourning or who are observing a yahrzeit to remain standing and join with me in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 174. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei zechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulmei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh, ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal, shemei dekudesha berichu. Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. You may be seated. At this time, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to invite up our Vice President Todd Maurer, who will share some remarks and announcements on the remainder of our high holidays coming up.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'd like to start off by thanking Rabbi Jenny, Cantor Melissa, and Charles Manning for a beautiful Rosh Hashanah service this morning. I'd also like to extend a special thank you to Sherry Lip-Levine and Jackie Goldstein, who have made it possible for all of you enjoying our live stream to actually enjoy this live stream. They are behind the scenes working hard this entire week to make sure that this has been able to be viewed by everybody. Many of you know that customarily the Tashlik service is performed on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. However, when it falls on Shabbat, it is performed on the second day. So now we are not all able to gather together. So we have taken the steps to put on our website, the same website that you are using now to view our live stream. You will find a Tashlik service there that's been conducted by our rabbis and our cantor. And the Tashlik service is a symbolic casting upon the waters of our past transgressions and sins. So please look to our website to find that service. If you wish to include a name in our Yom Kippur prayer for healing, please reach out to our synagogue office. Also, if you are interested in borrowing a prayer book for the Yom Kippur services, contact the office. Speaking of Yom Kippur, the Kol Nidre service on Sunday evening, September 27th, and the Yom Kippur services on Monday, September 28th will all be accessible on our live stream on our website. So please join us for those services. Additionally, on Yom Kippur, we will be having a family service that will be conducted via Zoom, and that will be at 2 p.m. on Monday, September 28th. Many of you know that traditionally, here at Congregation Beth-El Zedek, we offer an afternoon conversation on the day of Yom Kippur. This is an adult conversation that is intellectually and philosophically engaging, and we will continue that tradition this Yom Kippur afternoon at 5 p.m., where Rabbi Sandy will lead us in an adult conversation where she talks about the story of Jonah in quarantine, a whale of a tale. This will be on Zoom as well. All the links to our services, whether they're on live stream or on Zoom, can be found on the Beth-El website. Additionally, if you are interested in reading the sermons by our rabbis throughout the high holidays, those will be available on the synagogue website and on Facebook, and those will be posted after the high holidays. Again, if you visit our website, you will find other offerings that the synagogue is doing. We have a very busy calendar. Even through the challenges of COVID-19, we are keeping very busy here at Beth-El Zedek. And so please look for the offerings of the Alan and Linda Cohen Center for Jewish Learning and Living and see the variety of programs, and hope you find one that engages you. And finally, on behalf of our executive board and our board of directors and the board members that are joined us here today, I want to wish everyone a very healthy, a very joyous, and a very peaceful new year. L'Shana Tova.
Shana Tova, and thank you, Todd. We'll now turn to our closing song on page 175, Adon Olam, after which we will hear a closing benediction from Rabbi Dennis. I promise he really is here and well, and we'll be sharing our closing benediction following our final song, Adon Olam, page 175.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem hakol yetzir nivra v'yitnasa v'chefetzu kol azay melech shemo nikra b'yadu afkid ruchi b'yiti shan b'yayira v'im ruchi geviati Adonai
Well, before I offer the closing prayer, I'd like to also thank Rabbi Jenny Greenspan and Cantor Melissa Cohen and our organist Charles Manning for this beautiful service, which I have had the pleasure of participating in from the pews on this Rosh Hashanah morning. I'd like to thank Cantor Melissa for her vocal tikkiot, and Rabbi Jenny for her wonderful explanation of the significance of the shofar. And even though we will not sound the shofar, I thought we should have a visual of it to end the service as a reminder that we need to become the voices of the shofar this coming year, the clarion of hope, the clarion of blessing. I'd like to close the service with a story that I have already told once this year. It is about the famed anthropologist Margaret Mead, who was once asked what she considered to be the first evidence of human civilization. And she responded, it was a human thigh bone with a healed fracture found in a 15,000-year-old archaeological dig. Why did she not mention the development of tools, of hunting, of religious artifacts, any early evidence of communal organization? Mead pointed out that to survive a broken femur, the person must have been cared for long enough so that the bone could heal. Others had to provide the shelter, the mobility, the protection, the food, the drink for this healing to take place. And so it is with us at this unprecedented new year. As we come together in the spirit of worship and hope on this Rosh Hashanah, we acknowledge that none of us is alone. We can only come through this together as families, as neighborhoods, as a city, as a nation, as the world. So in the year ahead, science and medicine will hopefully yield a cure for the virus that threatens us from without. But only our sense of solidarity, of care, of respect for one another, of civic spirit, and of faith, those will heal us from within and bring us all, America, Israel, and the world, to a safe place of wholeness, of justice, and of peace. So may we be blessed with a sweet new year, a year of health, of joys, of healing, of shalom. L'shana tova tikatevu. May we be blessed with a year of renewal, a year of goodness, a year of sweetness. Amen.